They say sisters are supposed to be your first best friends. Maybe that was true once, when we were girls playing in the backyard, catching fireflies and making wishes on dandelions. But somewhere along the way, Ava and I stopped being we and became something else. Two halves of the same family, walking different paths, never really meeting in the middle. Ava was the wildfire. Loud, magnetic, unapologetically bold. She craved attention the way most people crave air. And people gave it to her. Effortlessly, eagerly. I was the quiet one. Thoughtful. Observant. I watched more than I spoke, felt more than I showed. If Ava was lightning, I was the steady rain. Didn't bother me much, not really. I found comfort in quiet places, in steady things. Music. The feeling of my own breath when the world went still. I didn't want the spotlight. I wanted peace. Then I met Daniel. He was the kind of man who didn't need to shout to be heard. He listened. Really listened. He noticed things when I was tired, when I was thinking too much, when I needed space. He never tried to fix me, just held space for me to be myself. We met at a mutual friend's art showing, both standing too long in front of the same painting. We talked for hours that night. Something about him made me feel safe, grounded. Over time we built something that felt rare and real. Late-night drives, shared goals, whispered plans about the future. He made me believe in forever, in a soft kind of love, the kind that stays. But Ava noticed him too. First it was subtle. Questions that felt too curious. Compliments that sounded too sweet. A laugh that lingered too long when he joked. I brushed it off. I wanted to believe the best. She was my sister after all. What harm could there be? Still, something in my gut twisted every time she looked at him just a little too long. I told myself I was being paranoid. That I was just jealous of how easily she commanded a room, even when he was in it. But I didn't know then what I know now. That peace I found in Daniel. It was never truly safe. Because sometimes the people who smile at your happiness are the very ones waiting to steal it. And Ava. She was never one to walk away from something she wanted. First I thought I was imagining it. Ava had always been bold, curious. She liked knowing everything about everyone, and I'd grown used to her intrusive questions over the years. But once Daniel and I got serious, once talk of rings and shared futures started floating through our conversations, something in her curiosity shifted. It wasn't playful anymore. It was pointed. She began asking things like, "Do you think he's really ready to settle down?" Or, "What would you do if he changed his mind?" She'd laugh after like it was all in jest. But the tone always left a faint bruise behind. She was around more too. Constantly. Uninvited dinners, surprise drop-ins at my apartment, lingering too long during our weekend outings. She'd plant herself next to Daniel, laughing at his jokes like she'd never heard anything funnier. And he didn't seem to mind. At first, I told myself I was being overly sensitive. Sisters tease. People joke. I tried not to make a mountain out of every moment. But Daniel started to change. He wasn't cruel, never that, but he grew distant. The warmth in his eyes began to fade into something cooler, more distracted. He'd cancel plans, saying work was hectic. He stopped texting good morning. Calls felt rushed, like his mind was always somewhere else. When I asked, he'd sigh and say, "I'm just tired, babe. It's nothing." I wanted to believe him. Then came the trip. It wasn't supposed to be long. My aunt had fallen ill across the state, and I went to help for a couple weeks. Daniel hugged me tightly before I left, told me to take care and text him every night. I did. But as the days passed, his responses dwindled. One-word answers. Delays. Then silence. Ava. She didn't respond at all. I told myself they were both just busy. Maybe life had just pulled us in different directions for a while. I kept checking my phone like a fool, convincing myself the next buzz would be him saying he missed me. That Ava would call and ramble about something stupid, just to fill the air. But the silence stayed. When I finally came home, no one was there to pick me up. The apartment was eerily clean, the lights off, the bed cold. A few of Daniel's things were missing. his shaving kit, his favorite hoodie, the framed photo of us on the bookshelf. At first, I wondered if he'd just gone away for the weekend. Then I checked the wedding planner file in the drawer. The venue. Refunded. The florist. Cancelled. I stood in that empty room, heart pounding, breath caught in my throat, trying to make the pieces fit. The next day, I ran into Lila, an old friend from school. Her face went pale when she saw me. She asked quietly if I'd heard. Heard what? Asked. She hesitated. Then it all came out. Daniel. Eva. Together. Living at my parents' house. Planning a life. I think I stopped hearing after that. Everything blurred. The traffic behind me, Lila's soft apologies, the feeling in my fingertips. I drove home in a daze and walked into the kitchen where my mother and father sat, frozen like statues. They didn't deny it. No one did. Later that night, Ava walked into the room as if nothing had happened. She looked at me like I was the one out of place. Her smile was soft, condescending. "You were never really right for him," she said. "He chose me." There was no apology in her voice. No guilt. Just quiet triumph. And in that moment something inside me broke, but not in the way she expected. It wasn't a collapse. It was the beginning of something else. He moved in with her within weeks. I tried not to count the days, but my mind did the math anyway. It hadn't even been a full month since I came back to find my life gutted, since I stood in the ruins of my engagement and watched my sister wear the smugness of a thief who knew she'd get away with it. Now they were playing house. Ava and Daniel, my sister and my almost husband, living in the room next to mine in our parents' home, as if nothing had happened. Some relatives whispered support to me, cousins who shook their heads when no one else was looking, an aunt who pulled me into a quiet hug and murmured, "I'm so sorry, sweetheart." But no one said it out loud. No one stood up and said this was wrong. My parents, silent, uneasy, as if acknowledging the situation might crack our fragile family into irreparable pieces. So I stayed in my room. Curtains drawn. Lights off during the day. I let the world shrink to just the walls around me, because outside those walls was a world where betrayal had won, and no one had stopped it. One afternoon she came to me. Uninvited as always. She leaned against my doorframe like she owned the place, like the pain she'd caused was just a minor inconvenience. "You never knew how to keep him," she said, voice syrupy sweet. I did. I didn't answer. What do you say to someone who takes your heart, your future, and dares to flaunt it like a trophy? But she wasn't done. She stepped closer, her hand resting casually on her stomach. Then she smiled that slow, wicked smile I knew too well. "I'm pregnant." The words didn't make sense at first. Pregnant. With Daniel's child. I felt something inside me shatter. Something deeper than anger, deeper than heartbreak. It was something ancestral, something primal. The kind of pain that doesn't have language, only heat. Like a fire swallowing you from the inside. I barely made it to the bathroom before I fell apart. That night, I locked my door and stayed in bed until morning. Then the next. And the one after that. I refused to eat at the same table. I skipped family gatherings. I deleted every photo, every message, every trace of them both from my phone, my room, my mind. I became a ghost in my own house. They thought I was defeated. But I wasn't. I was retreating. Not in surrender but in preparation. I didn't scream or curse or throw anything. I didn't post cryptic quotes or pity-soaked statuses. I let them think they'd won. Let them believe I was small, broken, irrelevant. Because when someone betrays you so completely, when they steal not just your partner but your sisterhood, your safety, your future, you don't just move on. You rise. Quietly. Steadily. On your own terms. I stopped thinking about them. Stopped checking for updates. Stopped giving them space in my thoughts. Instead, I started focusing on myself, for the first time in years. I deleted the past. And I started rebuilding the only thing they couldn't touch. Me. Grief has a strange texture. It doesn't always crash in like a wave. Sometimes it seeps in quietly. Into your bones, into your breath, until you barely notice how heavy you've become. For a while, I floated through life in that weightless, airless place. I didn't cry much, didn't scream, just existed numb, hollow, drifting. The world moved around me, loud and unaware. Ava posted bump photos with curated filters and smug captions. Daniel smiled in them like a man proud of his prize. The house buzzed with polite, artificial joy. I stopped listening. I stopped looking. I withdrew, yes, but not in weakness. Something strange started happening in the silence. At first, it was just instinct. I opened my laptop, cleared old drafts, and stared at a blank page. Then I started writing, or designing, or coding, whatever outlet you'd name, that was mine. I poured myself into it because there was nowhere else to go. People thought I was grieving a man. But the truth, I was grieving the version of myself that once needed him. That version of me who settled for less, who tolerated red flags because they were wrapped in charm, who ignored the tiny betrayals. That girl was gone. And I wasn't mourning her. I was evolving. What no one knew, not Ava, not Daniel, not even my parents, was that before any of this happened, I'd been building something. Started small, quiet. A tech platform for freelance creators. Or an art business. Or a novel that had been living in my head for years. Pick any, it was mine. During late nights, while they slept beside each other, I worked. Line by line. Pixel by pixel. Decision by decision. And then, quietly, it caught fire. People noticed. Users joined. Investors reached out. My inbox changed. My bank account changed. But most of all, I changed. I didn't post about it. I didn't brag. I let the silence carry my transformation. Grief became my kindling. And soon I wasn't just surviving. I was blazing forward. I moved out. Into a small but beautiful apartment that was entirely mine. I decorated it with plants, art prints, books. Things that made me feel alive. I began traveling. Meeting like-minded people. Building a circle that had nothing to do with blood and everything to do with soul. I stopped caring about what Ava said, what Daniel thought, or who was right in the family drama. Because I wasn't living in their world anymore. I had built my own. And in that world, I was not someone's ex-fiancé. I was not the sister who got left behind. I was the founder, the artist, the writer, the woman who rose from betrayal and built something unshakable. Peace didn't come all at once. Came in layers. In making my own coffee in my own kitchen. In waking up to quiet, not chaos. In not checking their pages. In laughing again. Honest, belly-deep laughter that had nothing to do with the past. Revenge. That wasn't the point. Becoming untouchable, that was. Time has a strange way of revealing the truth. Slowly, but always faithfully. Months passed, and I stayed quiet. Not because I didn't care, but because I refused to waste another ounce of energy on people who had already taken so much from me. But the whispers found me anyway. First, they were little things. Mutual friends who messaged me cautiously, unsure where my lines were drawn. Hey, I saw Ava the other day. She didn't look good. Just thought you should know. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Eventually the stories grew bolder. Daniel had lost his job again. Apparently, his confidence hadn't translated well in the real world. His charm faded fast when accountability was required. He drank more now. Sometimes he didn't come home. Sometimes he said cruel things Ava never thought she'd hear. He cheated, one friend finally said. Her voice low, like she was afraid even the words would hurt me. I didn't flinch. I just nodded. Of course he did. I had once believed in Daniel so fiercely that his betrayal nearly broke me. But now, seeing it all from a distance, I realized he was never strong. Just shiny. And shine wears off. Ava, it seemed, had traded her sisterhood for a house built on hollow promises. I didn't reach out. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. Let them sit in the quiet they created. Still, pieces reached me. Ava called my mother one night, sobbing. It's not what I thought, she said. He's not who I thought he was. My mother didn't know what to say. None of them did. They'd stood by quietly when I was cast aside. Now they were watching the pieces fall from the castle they once admired. The baby arrived. A girl. I heard about it secondhand. No one invited me to the hospital. No photos were sent. No olive branch extended. Daniel wasn't there when Ava went into labor. He arrived hours later, disheveled and unapologetic. He held the baby briefly, then left again for a smoke and didn't come back that night. Ava was alone. And even though I knew she deserved every bit of this reckoning, a small part of me felt something softer. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But recognition. She was still my sister. And now, she was living the fallout of choices she thought would bring her joy. The next time I saw a photo of her, I didn't even recognize her. The confident, conniving woman who once looked me in the eye and told me I never knew how to keep him was gone. In her place was a pale, exhausted shadow, holding a baby with one arm while trying to juggle groceries with the other. Her clothes were wrinkled. Her eyes had lost their edge. "She's miserable," another friend said. Honestly, it's like karma came full circle. But I wasn't smiling. I didn't need her to suffer. I didn't wish it on her. I just finally understood. Some betrayals aren't punished with revenge. They're punished with reality. And reality was doing the work I never had to. I stayed in my world, full of progress, passion, and people who saw me. Who never measured my worth in how well I could hold onto a man. Who never turned on me for their own gain. Slept well. I lived better. And most of all, I remained free. Ava's cracks were now too wide to hide behind. But I wasn't reaching down to save her. Not yet. She would have to meet her own reflection before she ever deserved to meet me again. It happened on a Tuesday. Ordinary, gray-skied, unremarkable. I had stopped by a small cafe near my office, a place I liked for its quiet corners and burnt caramel lattes. I was flipping through emails when I felt it, a strange shift in the air, a presence that made my spine stiffen before I even turned around. Then I heard his voice. "Hey, Daniel." His hair was longer. Lucy. His once polished look had dulled, and the confidence he used to wear like armor had cracked around the edges. He looked unsure, almost small. "Can I sit?" he asked, already pulling out the chair before I could answer. I didn't stop him. I didn't speak. I just looked at him, guarded but curious. What was left for him to say? "I didn't know I'd run into you," he started, hands fidgeting around his coffee cup. I've been meaning to reach out." I said nothing. "I made a mistake," he finally said, voice low. "With Ava. With everything." A part of me expected a flicker of emotion, a pang, a flame, something. But there was only stillness. "You didn't just hurt me," I said quietly. "You unraveled the part of me that trusted. You made me question everything." He lowered his gaze. "But I rebuilt that part," I continued. "Stronger. Wiser." Daniel looked up, hopeful, desperate. "Is there any way we can start over? Even as friends?" I let the question hang between us. Then I smiled, not kindly but with clarity. "You didn't break me, Daniel," I said. "You freed me." He blinked. "What do you mean?" "I would have spent years trying to make you happy. Dimming myself to keep you around. But what you did, it forced me to see who I really am without you." I stood up, grabbing my bag. "So, thank you for showing me exactly who you are, and reminding me who I'll never be again." He looked stunned. Like he truly believed he could re-enter my life simply because he regretted leaving it. I walked away, not angrily, just finally and fully done. Outside, the air felt lighter. Clean. Like something heavy had been lifted the moment I said what I needed to say. Closure doesn't always come with tears or shouting. Sometimes, it's just the calm that comes from knowing you no longer carry the weight of someone else's mistakes. And I didn't look back. It was a quiet Sunday when Ava messaged me. Just 5 words, "Can we talk? Please?" I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. Not with anger. Not with anticipation. Just calm curiosity. I agreed to meet her at a park we used to visit as kids, before everything between us cracked and collapsed. She was already there when I arrived, sitting alone on a bench, the stroller parked beside her. Her face looked tired, drawn, not just from motherhood but from something deeper. Regret, maybe. Or the slow unraveling of her own delusions. "Thanks for coming," she said, not meeting my eyes at first. Waited. I didn't need to fill the silence. She began, voice already trembling. "I need to say it. All of it." She looked up at me then, tears brimming. "I envied you. For so long. You were always the one people admired. You had ambition, warmth, future. And She stopped, swallowing hard. "I thought if I took something from you, I could feel that too." My chest didn't ache. My eyes didn't sting. I simply listened. "Daniel never loved me," she said quietly. "Not really. He loved the idea of getting back at you through me. And I let him. I thought having his child would anchor him to me. But he's barely present, and when he is, he's angry, cold. And I'm alone." The baby stirred in the stroller beside her. Ava didn't look down. Her eyes were fixed on mine. "I didn't win anything," she whispered. "I lost you. I lost myself." Took a breath. The wind stirred through the trees above us. "You didn't steal love, Ava," I said softly. "You stole a lie. And it's already unraveling." Her face crumpled then, shoulders shaking, tears spilling freely. I didn't move to comfort her. Not out of cruelty, but because I knew this was hers to sit with. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. I believed her. But that didn't change anything. "I hope you find healing," I said, my voice steady. "Truly. But I can't carry any of this for you." She nodded through her tears. I stood, looked once at the baby, innocent, unaware, and then back at Ava. "Take care of her better than you took care of us." And I walked away. Not in triumph, but in peace. Because forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about freeing yourself from the burden of what never belonged to you. And I was free. It's been years now. The pain has long stopped echoing. The names, Ava, Daniel, they no longer sting. If anything, they feel like old characters in a story I've long since closed. The pages yellowed but intact. I don't revisit them often, but when I do, it's not with anger. It's with strength. In the time since, I've built a life that feels mine in every way. My home is quiet, sun-filled, full of books and plants and soft music. My mornings begin with clarity, not chaos. My circle is small but whole. People who show up, who speak honestly, who see me as I am. My work, what I poured myself into after everything, has grown beyond what I imagined. A startup that blossomed into a brand. A platform that gave not just income but impact. I no longer hustle for validation. I move with purpose, not permission. And my heart, it's healed. Not patched together but stronger, reshaped. More discerning, more grounded. I've known love again, real, patient, earned love. But even without it I'd be whole. Ava and Daniel faded, as all things built on betrayal do. I hear bits through the grapevine. Regrets, struggles, distance. But I don't linger there. That's their story now. Mine is different. They thought they were writing my ending. But they only ignited my beginning. I used to cry over what they took. Now I smile at what I gained. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't anger or confrontation. It's becoming the woman they never saw coming. A woman at peace. A woman unshakable. A woman who no longer waits to be chosen, because she already chose herself. And that, I've learned, is the kind of victory that echoes long after the noise dies down.